What if you could find work that was meaningful, but didn't come with a standard toxic corporate workplace culture? At Palm Tree, we think we have exactly that, and our colleagues would agree. We're a consulting firm focused on the world of private equity and M&A. We do good work, and we're proud of that, but we also invest heavily into building a people-first culture. The investment in our people has resulted in high retention numbers across the firm since we started in 2010. If accounting, strategy, analytics, banking, and working with the world's smartest and kindest people sounds like the kind of work you'd enjoy, consider applying for a role at Palm Tree. Visit our careers page at palmtreellc.com or find the link in this episode's show notes for more information.
Mental math can be challenging enough on its own, but in a case interview context, it can be downright scary. You're sitting across the table from an interviewer who is watching you do math in the biggest interview of your life. And oh yeah, you have to do it out loud on the fly. So, how do you navigate this arduous part of the case interview process? Today, I'm here to break down the 5 biggest missteps I see candidates make when it comes to mental math inside the case interview. Since 2008, we've helped over 15,000 candidates land offers at over 170 different firms. When I tell you I've seen some gnarly math mistakes, I've seen some gnarly math mistakes. So I'm here today to help you avoid these pitfalls that I've seen other candidates fall into before they started working with management consulting. Let's dive in. Misstep number 1, under-communicating. I've seen so many uninitiated and uneducated candidates, when they get to the math portion of a case interview, dive right in to the math calculations themselves. The calculations are just one step of a multi-step math process that you should go through. Your first job when faced with a math question inside the case is to recap. Make sure that you understand what it is that you're being asked to solve, and make sure that you've got all the numbers right before you start doing the math. So many people halfway through the calculations that they're doing find out that they're missing data that they need to get to the right answer. And they're missing that data because they didn't take the chance to recap. So always make sure that you confirm with your interviewer what it is that you're solving for and that you have all the right facts and figures at your disposal. So many people think that they're bad at math when actually they're just bad at listening. When you recap, you confirm what it is that you're solving for. And by definition, if you do not know what you're solving for, you cannot be good at math. So, mistake 1 is under-communicating. And that doesn't just come across in the recap, it also comes across in the way that you talk the interviewer through the structure of your math. So, after you recap, you're not yet quite ready to dive into the calculations. Your second step is to walk them through the algebra. Lay out how you propose to get to the answer and walk them through that framework first. Once they understand the steps that you're going to take to arrive at the answer, it's going to be much easier for them to follow your calculations. And it'll be much easier for you to execute the calculations once you've laid out that algebraic structure first. So, when you over-communicate, you don't just recap, but you lay out the structure of your math first before you do the calculations. And then when you finally get to doing the calculations, remember, you're doing them verbally. You are talking the interviewer through each calculation that you're doing as you're doing it on your paper. There's no time for heads down, silent writing on the paper. You're always talking and communicating. The second misstep that I see candidates make inside of the case math process is that they're too freaking slow. Every micro calculation that you're doing inside of the case interview should take you between 10 to 20 seconds. That doesn't mean that the entirety of the math problem takes you 10 to 20 seconds, but every step that you're taking to arrive at the answer should take you around 10 to 20 seconds. It's awkward if the interviewer is just sitting there watching you fumble through math or sitting there watching you in silence trying to figure out what to do. You need to be adept at doing calculations and talking through them in a 10 to 20 second time frame. When you add all of those micro steps up that take you 10 to 20 seconds to calculate, on top of the recap that you're doing, on top of the structure that you're doing, on top of the insights that you're going to bring to bear afterwards. And you'll find that the math portion of the case interview takes you about 3 to 5 minutes for each math problem that you're solving. The third misstep that I see candidates make is that they round too much or they round too little. Let's talk about rounding too much first. I've worked with dozens of candidates over the years who want to round everything to a nice, easy to calculate round number. They round so much that the numbers lose their meaning, their power, and their effect. Because now the precision of your answer is too far removed from the actual truth. Yes, rounding everything to a nice round number, $10 million, 1,000 units, etc., might make your math really, really easy, but it doesn't showcase analytical rigor. So you need to make sure that you're rounding reasonably. What does reasonable rounding look like? Often you can round to the ones place inside of a case interview. Some of you hate rounding altogether, and that's also a mistake. It makes your math too difficult, too unwieldy to talk through, and rounding a little bit to the ones place wouldn't change the insight that comes from the numbers. So don't round too much, but also don't round too little. Practice rounding to the ones place. If you round any more than that, and you'll run into a partner in a final round interview who is going to push back on you and require you to do math with less rounding. And if you haven't practiced only rounding to the ones place, when you get inside of that case interview and you're pushed back on, you're not going to know what to do.
Do you have confirmed case interviews and need to get ready fast? Then look no further than our free case prep plan. There's a link in this episode's show notes to download it. Like I said, it's free. It's a step-by-step plan that walks you through the A to Z of case interview prep. So each day, you know exactly what you need to be focusing on to get ready for that case interview. This is the exact plan that we use when we're coaching our clients through our Black Belt and our Super Prep programs, and we know that it works. Again, this case prep plan is free. Link in the show notes to download it today.
The fourth misstep that I see candidates make when it comes to case interview math is a doozy. They believe that math is all about the answer. It's not. Your math is about the process you take to arrive at the answer and then the insights you gather from the numbers afterward. I've already walked through what this case math process looks like. Let me just recap it for you quickly. First, when you're given a math prompt inside of a case, you recap. You understand the problem that you're solving for and make sure that you've captured all the information correctly. Second, you structure. You lay out your algebra beforehand on paper and walk your interviewer through it so they understand the exact steps you're going to take to arrive at a numerical answer. As an added bonus, you also understand all the steps that you're going to take to arrive at a numerical answer instead of trying to figure those out at the same time that you're doing calculations. Third, you do the actual math. You execute that process that you've laid out and do the calculations to arrive at an answer. Fourth, and most importantly, you extract insights from the number that you've gotten to. Top candidates arrive at 3 levels of insight for each math answer they arrive at. A level 1 insight is just getting the math right. That's table stakes. You arrive at the correct numerical answer. And you might be able to layer on some kind of really simple anecdote or perspective on top of that. Hey, you know what? This is a larger market than I expected. That's a smaller revenue driver than I thought it would be, etc., etc. That's a level 1 type of insight, and it's table stakes. With a level 2 insight, you're making an interim recommendation at this part of the case. Based on what you know so far, what do you think the client should do? For example, this may be a smaller market than you anticipated. So you can start to talk about how at this point you wouldn't recommend that your client enter the market. Now, level 3 insights drive that point home. A level 3 insight talks about what you would like to calculate and look at next. So if a level 2 insight talks about what you think the client should do based on the information that you have currently, a level 3 insight talks about what you'd want to look at next to further and complete the analysis. For example, A level 2 insight might talk about how a market is smaller than you anticipated, and at this point, you would recommend not entering. But a level 3 insight might say that you want to look at the competitive landscape inside of that market to see how fragmented or consolidated it is. Small markets with low competition and perhaps high potential growth might still be attractive entrance targets. And so a level 3 insight talks about what you'd want to look at next. And if you've ever gotten feedback inside of a case interview that you're not driving the case, what the interviewer or the partner is telling you is that you're not arriving at level 3 insights enough. After each piece of analysis, you are not putting a stake in the ground and talking about what you'd like to examine next. When you follow this 4-step process of recap, structure, calculations, and insights, your math becomes really easy to follow for the interviewer, and you are much less likely to make mistakes in the process. This process also makes your insights and your answers believable. If an interviewer believes the process that you've gone through to arrive at an answer, then they really have no choice but to believe the answer that you've arrived at. But if you're going to do math without following this kind of process and this kind of structure, and if the math is going to be difficult for the interviewer to follow, they're not necessarily going to believe the answer that you got to, and they're not going to believe the insights that come from that answer. Fifth, and finally, a huge mistake that I see candidates make is thinking that one mistake inside of this math process equals total failure. It doesn't. I've never met a consultant, even at the top firms, who didn't have at least one major math mistake inside of their case interviews before they got an offer. Mistakes are not fatal. How you respond to them, though, can be. So if and perhaps when you find yourself making a mistake inside the math portion of a case, don't worry about it. Own the mistake, go back, fix it, and move on. The candidates who beat themselves up, the candidates who lose confidence, those are the candidates who don't end up succeeding and don't end up getting an offer. So remember, one mistake isn't fatal as long as you own it, fix it, and move on. And this process that we've walked through of how to solve case math will help you identify the mistakes you make faster and help you figure out where it is that you went wrong and how to quickly adjust.
Hey, Strategy Simplified, Japeth here. It's time to answer some fan mail. So we're going to take 2 minutes to answer a listener question that one of y'all sent in. So if you want to do that yourself, send in a question. There's a link in each episode's show notes to text us a question about consulting, recruiting, case interviews, salaries, you name it. We love answering your questions. All right, let's get into this question. So this is from someone from Nigeria. Amazing. Thank you for listening all the way over in Nigeria. And the number attached to the question is 6985, so you know who you are. All right, the question is, I just graduated from university earlier this year, and I'm looking forward to breaking into consulting, getting an entry-level role at BCG. I don't know where to start in terms of practice cases, drills, and mock interviews. How do I build these skills, and where exactly do I start? And in addition, how can I manage my time? Okay, that's a great question. I'm going to walk you through our plan here at Management Consulted to get started with case interview prep when you don't know where to begin or you don't have any previous case experience. So first off, go through our free case interview course. It's a video course, a couple of short videos that will walk you through the case interview so you can understand how the different pieces of a case fit together, how you get scored, etc. Next, we're going to get you into some practice. So start with about 10 market sizing questions to start to get a handle on the core skills that the case interview tests for. You can utilize our market sizing drills, links in the show notes for these resources. After that, you're going to get into 3 to 5 full cases. You're going to walk through these by yourself. So just walk through the cases in order and just get, again, we're still building your foundation, just getting you familiar with the cases. Next up, you're going to do a mock case. And ideally, you're going to do this with an expert or with a current or former consultant because they're going to know what firms are looking for and what you need to do to improve. So ideally, this is with an expert coach. So they're going to diagnose your strengths and weaknesses and build you a plan to get you from where you are to where you need to go to be interview ready. You can join one of our coaching programs. We've got our Black Belt program, which is our most popular program. It's a structured approach to casing, gives you 8 hours one-on-one coaching and a whole lot more resources to get you ready and prepped for the case interviews. And in that, you're going to be working through mock cases and drills. We've got online resources for those, but you're going to be checking in with an expert coach every couple of cases, every couple of days to make sure you're on the right track and not building any bad habits. And that's going to really help you manage your time more effectively. All right, so thank you for your question from Nigeria. Links in the show notes for resources, what I've talked about today. Good luck. Please keep us updated on your journey.
Do you need more case interview math help? Then you need our All Access Pass or our Black Belt program. In the All Access Pass, you'll find a mental math video course and thousands of math drills to help you prepare for this part of the interview at your own pace. In Black Belt, on top of the course and on top of the drills, you'll get live math coaching from a former MBB consultant. You can learn more through the links in the description. I wish you the best of luck as you prep for your upcoming case interview.